it all began. The Walking Dead Season 1 starts with Rick Grimes, a sheriff's deputy, waking from a coma after being shot. He encounters a world filled with walkers and heads to Georgia to reunite with his family wife, Lori, and son, Carl. Along the way, he comes across Morgan and his son, Dwayne, though eventually leaves them after hearing of a refugee camp. In Georgia, he befriends Glenn, a survivor scavenging for goods, as well as redneck Merle and T-Dog. The gang handcuff Merle and leave him stranded on a roof, but later return to find him gone, with no sign of a body. Rick finally reaches the camp housing both Lori and Carl, as well as his best friend/former colleague, Shane, who has started a relationship with Lori, unbeknownst to Rick. The camp also includes the rest of the group that would form a core part of the first season. Daryl, Merle's brother. During an excursion, a group of walkers attack the camp and kill Amy and Carol's husband, Ed. The gang eventually depart for the Center for Disease Control, CDC, hoping a cure will be found there, though Morales goes his own way and Jim stays behind. However, the lead scientist at the CDC informs them there isn't a cure, rigs the CDC to self-destruct, and dies from suicide alongside a resigned Jackie, but not before imparting Rick with some, at the time, unknown knowledge about the Walker virus. The vast majority of Season 2 takes place on the farm of elderly Dr. Hershel, also populated by his two daughters, Maggie and Beth. The gang head there after Carl is accidentally shot, and Carol's daughter Sophia goes missing. Otis, the man who shot Carl, is eventually left for dead by Shane while out on a hunt for supplies. Carl, meanwhile, eventually recovers from his wounds, and Lori discovers she is pregnant. Glenn starts a relationship with Maggie, though a late-night meetup eventually turns sour after Glenn discovers Hershel's barn is filled with captive walkers. Eventually, the group of survivors decide to open the barn. Inside, Sophia's found, but she's long since died and turned into a walker. Rick kills her reanimated corpse. Filled with grief, Hershel goes to a nearby bar but is attacked by a gang. Rick save and haul one member, Randall, back to the farm. Despite debating over his fate, Shane decides to take initiative and secretly kills him. A large group of walkers also descends on the farm. One kills Dale after Carl fails to use it for shooting practice. Finally, Rick kills Shane after it's clear that Shane is becoming more frenzied. Walkers invade the farm, and Rick relays a CDC scientist's warning that everyone who dies will turn into a walker. The group all escape, barring Andrea, who is split from the group and rescued by a mysterious woman, later revealed to be Michonne. Season 3 kicks off 8 months after Season 2 ended, with Rick and the survivors taking back a prison from the walkers to use as a new home. Lori, meanwhile, is heavily pregnant with her second child. During the battle for the prison, Hershel is bitten on the leg and has it amputated to avoid turning. The remaining prisoners are, ironically, held captive by the group in a different wing of the prison. Andrea and Michonne are taken in by Merle, who now aligns with the community of Woodbury and their leader, the governor. Back at the prison, walkers are lured in by alarms and all hell breaks loose. T-Dog is killed trying to save Carol, while Lori gives birth to a daughter, Judith, and Carl is forced to mercifully kill his own mother. Michonne leaves Woodbury, and after Merle captures Glenn and Maggie, takes some much-needed supplies to a depleted prison. After recuperating, everyone heads over to Woodbury to take back Glenn and Maggie, and Michonne stabs the governor in the eye. The second half of the season sees Woodbury eventually liberated from the governor's control, but not without casualties. Merle is killed thanks to the governor, as is Andrea, who secretly worked against the governor. The remaining main Woodbury residents, siblings Sasha and Tyrese, are invited into the prison community. Things at the prison soon spiral out of control thanks to a disease spread by livestock on the grounds. The group are forced to make some tough decisions, including quarantining the infected. 2 of those with the disease, David and Tyrese's girlfriend Karen, are murdered. The culprit is later revealed to be Carol. The governor also strikes back at the prison and encounters the Chandler family, Lily, Tara, and Megan. He kidnaps Michonne and Hershel, executing the latter and starting an all-out war at the prison. The governor is eventually defeated and killed by Lily, while the original group of survivors fracture and go their separate ways in the chaos, with Judith being taken in by Carol and Tyrese. All roads, though, lead to Terminus, a promising new community. Along the way, Carol is forced to kill Lizzie after she kills her sister, and Beth is also captured by a mysterious set of strangers. Everyone, barring Carol's group, is eventually captured at Terminus, though Rick ends the season with a rallying cry, banding together the new ensemble, featuring those that Glenn found, the surviving members of the prison, and Tara. The first half of the season deals with the recovery of Beth, who is found working under the watchful eye of Dawn, a crazed police officer turned hospital leader. This all comes after an explosive opening episode which sees Carol dispatch much of Terminus's members while also rescuing the group. Rick meets Father Gabriel, who consigned much of his parish to their eventual deaths in the wake of the Walker outbreak. While there, the ex-leader of Terminus, Gareth, leads his remaining group to attack and kill Bob. Later attempts to rescue Beth include Carol being wheeled to the hospital after an accident, though it ends in tragedy after Beth stabs Dawn and Dawn kills Beth. Sasha's brother Therese also dies during a trip to rescue hospital worker Noah's family. After Eugene lies about having a cure, the group divert their attention to the walled community of Alexandria after they are invited by one of its residents, Aaron. Things eventually descend into paranoia aimed at the new members of Alexandria, with one Alexandrian, Pete, becoming jealous over Rick's attention towards his wife. Despite initial protests against his hardened attitude, the Alexandrians and their leader, Deanna, eventually warm towards Rick, who is forced to kill Pete after he accidentally stabs Deanna's husband, Reg. The season ends with scavengers. The wolves on the outskirts of Alexandria and Morgan returning after brief appearances in the pilot and in Season 3. The wolves attack Alexandria after an attempt to divert a large group of walkers at a nearby quarry goes wrong under Rick's leadership. The group are eventually defeated, with only one member, Owen, captured. A flashback episode fills in Morgan's adventures since we last saw him. He's now a pacifist, refusing to kill. Early on in the season, Maggie also reveals she is pregnant with Glenn's child. The leader of Alexandria, Deanna, is bitten by a walker and dies, while Alexandria is completely overrun by walkers. The undead are eventually beaten back, but Carl is shot in the eye by Ron, an Alexandrian trying to escape with his family, after a tussle between he and Rick. Later in the season, after the wolves have been dispatched, a new group emerge, the Saviors. They continually take Alexandria's supply, which forces the town, now led by Rick, to broker a deal with the Hilltop. Carol and Maggie are kidnapped by the Saviors, but eventually escape, while Alexandria's doctor, Denise, is also killed by prominent member, Dwight. Carol ends up leaving Alexandria, but is pursued by the Saviors. She is eventually rescued by Morgan and taken in by a new community. Elsewhere, Negan makes his mark. The leader of the Saviors introduces himself by intercepting the survivors en route to the Hilltop to help a heavily pregnant Maggie. The season ends with Negan killing an unseen member of the group with his barbed wire baseball bat, Lucille. The Season 6 cliffhanger is revealed. Negan kills Abraham as well as Glenn. Daryl is also brought in and held captive by the Saviors. The people who took Carol and Morgan in are also revealed, the Kingdom, led by the eccentric Ezekiel, who keeps a tiger for a pet. Another group is introduced. The Saviors continue to make those at the Hilltop in Alexandria live in fear, including killing Dr. Olivia, while Daryl eventually escapes from his confinement. At the mid-season finale, Negan takes Eugene and also stabs Spencer, Deanna's son, which eventually drives Rick to bring the fight to the Saviors. Rick's group joins forces with the Kingdom and also encounters the Scavengers, led by Jadis, a group that has no stake in the oncoming war. Jadis, though, tells Rick to bring her group guns so they can help fight against the Saviors. Negan's right-hand man, Dwight, also wants to take down Negan. The season culminates in a standoff at Alexandria, with Sasha committing suicide inside a coffin with the aim being to kill Negan, though she fails thanks to the Scavengers aligning with the Saviors. The Hilltop and Kingdom eventually ride to Alexandria's rescue while Negan retreats. Season 8 steps up the conflict between the Saviors and the remaining communities. Sanctuary, the Saviors' home base, is attacked and overrun with walkers early on in the season. The group hit back by massacring several members of the Kingdom and Ezekiel's tiger, Shiva. In a blast from the past, Morales, from way back in Season 1, returns as a member of the Saviors, though he is swiftly dispatched by Daryl. Maggie's group encounters Georgie, who makes a quick stop at the Hilltop to promise them plans and essential knowledge for a new future. A new member joins the group, the doctor, Sadiq. He is there while Carl gets bitten by a walker during their journey to Alexandria. Carl later kills himself instead of turning, but not before writing letters to his friends and family, including Negan, reminding them of the good in the world. Negan, meanwhile, has internal conflict to deal with. His trusted lieutenant Simon massacres every scavenger except Jadis, despite this going against Negan's orders. Back at the now-reclaimed sanctuary, and with a blind and sick Gabriel in tow, Negan kills Simon, but Dwight's newfound alliance with Rick is discovered, forcing him to leave for good. This greatly reduces Negan's might, and the final blow comes when the Savior's attempt to kill Rick blows up in their face. Eugene sabotages their ammo. Rick finally defeats Negan in a one-on-one fight and slices his neck. He lets Negan live, however, after remembering Carl's parting words of forgiveness. The Walking Dead Season 9 follows on from the aftermath of Negan's defeat and concerns the insubordination of both the Saviors and the Hilltop's former leader, Gregory, who bowed to Negan's demands in the past. Gregory is swiftly dealt with, executed by new leader, and now mother to baby Hershel, Maggie after a failed assassination attempt, while some of the Saviors clash with Rick's group, and a handful are even taken by the Oceanside, which leads to a full-scale revolt. There are more hopeful developments, however, as Carol and Ezekiel's relationship blossoms. During the riot, Rick's attempts to redirect a herd of oncoming walkers leads to him falling off his horse and being seriously wounded. In a last act of sacrifice, he blows up the then-just-finished bridge to stop the walkers encroaching on any communities. He appears to die in the eyes of Daryl, but is miraculously rescued by Anne, the former Jadis who has been in league with the new group, who takes him away on a helicopter. After Rick's apparent death, a 6-year time jump takes place. Maggie leaves Hilltop to join George's group. Rick's daughter, Judith, now forms a key part of the outreach project to help survivors in the wild. One such group, Magna, Yumiko, Luke, and Connie, are eventually taken in, despite Michonne's distrust of outsiders. As shown by her scar, one we come to learn was a result of believing the intentions of a woman and a group of children. Michonne had to massacre the children to escape, as shown in a flashback episode. Finally, the Whisperers enter the picture. Led by Alpha, the group of walker-skinned adversaries kill Jesus. After her daughter, Lydia, is taken in by the Hilltop, Alpha strikes back at the fair, which was originally designed to reconnect the Kingdom, Hilltop, and Alexandria. The Whisperers kill several, including Carol and Ezekiel's adoptive son, Henry, Tara, and Enid, and the kingdom falls. The season starts with the Whisperers and the survivors keeping away from each other, something that abruptly changes after a Russian satellite comes crashing down to Earth within the Whisperers' boundaries. Alpha takes issue with the survivors heading into her land to extinguish the flames from the crashed satellite and demands more land from them. The Whisperers also bolster out their ranks with new Lieutenant Gamma. Ezekiel attempts to commit suicide but is stopped by Michonne. He later reveals to Sadiq that he has thyroid cancer. Following a walker attack on Alexandria, Negan, back in prison for committing manslaughter to save Lydia, goes missing. He later bumps into Brandon, a former savior who kills a mother and child to impress Negan. In turn, Negan kills Brandon and is then captured by Beta after walking into Whisperer territory. Beta then tests Negan, who manages to pass and seemingly aligns with Alpha. When Carol and Daryl head out to destroy Alpha's walker horde and instead capture a Whisperer, they realize their prisoner believes Lydia is dead. Carol vows to reveal the truth to the Whisperers. Meanwhile, the captured Whisperer is killed by Dante, who Sadiq soon realizes is actually a Whisperer spy. Dante strangles Sadiq, but once his true identity is revealed and he's imprisoned, Gabriel kills him in his cell. Around the same time, Michonne, Judith, and Luke travel to Oceanside and meet Virgil, who agrees to show them a valuable weapons cache in return for safe passage back to his family. Carol and Daryl once again go looking for Alpha's horde, this time with Aaron, Magna, Connie, Kelly, and Jerry, surrounded by the Whisperers' horde. The second half of the 10th season features a cave-in near Hilltop that traps Connie and Magna, though Magna later escapes. Over on the Whisperers' side of things, Alpha has to deal with the twin loyalties of new recruit Negan and Gamma, who is having her head turned by the humanity of the survivors. The other main through line for the season is Eugene discovering a new community, thanks to Stephanie, a woman communicating to the nervous scientist over the radio. He, Yumiko, and Ezekiel set off in search of the person behind the mysterious voice, and also come into contact with a quirky individual who goes by the name Princess. The Whisperers and the survivors eventually clash, with Hilltop being razed to the ground. During the heat of battle, Judith kills a Whisperer, her first in the series if you're keeping track, and Gamma is killed by Alpha. In a surprise twist, or maybe not, given his history, Negan kills Alpha and reveals he had been in cahoots with Carol the entire time. Michonne's time with Virgil goes less well. She is imprisoned by the man on an island, but eventually breaks free, attacks Virgil, and escapes. Via walkie-talkie, she tells Judith that she's heading off to find Rick. For now, that's the last we've seen of Michonne in the main series. Beta, having taken control of the Whisperers after Alpha's demise, draws a large horde of walkers towards the remaining survivors from Hilltop who have gathered in a hospital. Fortunately, a returning Maggie helps turn the tide. The survivors infiltrate the Whisperers, and Daryl kills Beta. The season ends with Eugene's group being surrounded by soldiers. But wait, there's more. There are 6 bonus episodes, referred to as 10C. While they can largely be skipped, they introduce a new villainous group, the Reapers, and dig deeper into Negan's pre-outbreak past with his wife, Lucille. Alexandria is running dangerously low on food and supplies, so Maggie leads a group containing Daryl, Negan, and Gabriel to her old home of Meridian to help gather resources. The new Reapers group cause havoc. Maggie's allies, Cole and Duncan, are slain. Daryl finds Dog next to a female Reaper, revealed to his ex, Leah. He is introduced to the Reapers' leader, Pope, who tests Leah and Daryl by locking them in a hut. After they escape, a clearly uncomfortable Daryl is integrated into the Reapers. Over in the Commonwealth, Yumiko catches up with her brother Tommy. Eugene and his crush Stephanie attempt to contact Alexandria, but are stopped and imprisoned. They are eventually released on the orders of the slippery deputy governor, Lance Hornsby. The Reapers are on the tail of Maggie's group near Meridian, but Daryl aids their escape. Leah kills Pope after having enough of his disregard for whether Reapers lived or died. Daryl tries to convince her to leave the Reapers and join Maggie's group, but she refuses. Leah orders the Reapers to attack the group, a decision she'll later regret. Alden dies during the supply run. The storyline jumps forward in time 6 months and picks up with most of the main characters having relocated to the Commonwealth, and several of them struggling to stomach the vast class divide within the well-off society. Elsewhere, it depicts Maggie standing off against a Commonwealth army led by Daryl. After Eugene tells her he loves her, Stephanie disappears. He confronts Lance when he spots her plotting with him and is told that Stephanie isn't actually Stephanie. She's a plant called Shira, who was used to get the location of Alexandria out of Eugene. Later, a mysterious woman named Max approaches Eugene and informs him that she was actually the one talking with him on the radio. As some of the residents of the Commonwealth go missing, Lance and his troopers take control of Alexandria, Hilltop, and Oceanside. Lance flips a coin to decide the fate of Oceanside's residents. When Leah attacks Maggie, Daryl is forced to kill her. Pamela strikes a deal with Carol to present Lance as a scapegoat for the missing residents, but their plan hits a snag when Max and Eugene spark riots by broadcasting a recording they took of Sebastian championing the Commonwealth's elitist attitude. During the hijacked event, Sebastian attempts to murder Max by pushing her into a walker, but Eugene intervenes, resulting in Sebastian getting bitten and turning. Hell-bent on seeing Eugene convicted of murder, Pamela throws Lance in jail, has her troopers kidnap our survivors, and tries to force Yumiko to prosecute him. But the latter resists and tells Pamela she's going to defend him instead. The kidnapped heroes are sent to work in a hard labor camp, dubbed Outpost 22, which is actually Alexandria, which sees Daryl, Carol, Maggie, Rosita, and the others set out on a rescue mission. Carol and Daryl break Lance out of prison to help them find their friends, and when he is of no use to them anymore, Carol shoots him in the neck with an arrow. After liberating the inmates, the gang take the train back to the Commonwealth to overthrow Pamela, and Judith gets shot in the process. A horde of smart zombies make their way into the community, which leads Pamela to order her troopers to divert the swarm to the lower class areas to give the rich folk more time to escape. Daryl and co intercept her and force Pamela to open up the gates to the estates so that all living residents can take shelter there. They get as many people to safety as they can before rigging the place with explosives and blowing up the herd. Mercer arrests Pamela for her crimes. Rosita dies, having succumbed to a walker bite on her back, before the gang claim the Commonwealth and restore Alexandria and Hilltop to their former glory. 1 year on, the show reveals Ezekiel, Carol, and Mercer have taken on leadership roles within the former. The series ends with a split sequence that reveals Rick on the run from the Civic Republic military, and Michonne in full samurai gear, galloping towards the biggest horde of walkers the horror drama has ever seen.